Hello and welcome to my final video, not forever, just for this little series on routines and schedules. And this one is very near and dear to my heart. It's work that is really energizing and fascinating to me right now. And it's little pieces of information that I've been kind of collating and experimenting with in my own life. And I think there's a huge amount of power behind it. So the topic of this video is around cycling with your cycle. Now guys, don't switch off because honestly there's a lot of good content in this video for you to actually understand your woman better and the women in your lives. So where are we going to begin with this? Essentially, we all acknowledge that half of the world population is female. And to be perfectly frank, we function a little bit differently. And I guess the easiest way I can explain this is in the menstrual cycle. So we have maybe a 28-day cycle. For some women, it's a little bit shorter. For some women, it's a little bit longer. But I want you to think about that conceptually as what's roughly around 28 days. A lunar month, or the month that is in the calendar that we've used for a really long time now. It's a very linear calendar, however, and women are very circular because we cycle and the cycle resumes and repeats. We may not think about that conceptually because the life that we live and how we schedule our lives and how we exist in the world is very linear. We feel like we're kind of on one long track. When if you start to shift that and think about yourself just rotating around a circle, you can start to get some interesting ideas about your schedule and what power there might be in adjusting your schedule and respecting that cyclical nature of your schedule. So what do I really mean by this? Okay, a little bit of physiology education for everybody out there. I'm not going to go too deep into all of this. I'm trying to keep it productivity and schedule related. But essentially, if you break down your month into 4 weeks, that's what we have. So we have 4 weeks. Now, what else do we have 4 of? We have 4 seasons in the year. So a 28-day cycle can be broken down into the 4 seasons. And we're all familiar, even in those lucky people that live in regions around the equator that feel like they just have summer most of the time and maybe a little bit of winter. I certainly had that experience growing up in Queensland. We didn't really have much of an appreciation of spring and autumn. But in actual fact, when I moved to Adelaide and really could appreciate those clearly distinct 4 seasons, I've kind of got a little bit more understanding in my body of the seasonal structure of that sort of, 4 seasons in a year, 4 weeks in a month. You start truncating it down. So stay with me. I know this is a lot to get your head around. So let's just start from the beginning and let's just start with day 1 of a woman's menstrual cycle, which is when her period starts, when she starts bleeding, when she's on her moon. Whatever term you want to use for it is absolutely fine, but that is going to be our day 1 in our 28-day cycle, give or take. So day 1, with that particular day with bleeding commencing, that can be looked at as our winter. Now, if you think about your experience of winter, here in Australia, we have just gone through winter. Thank goodness we're emerging out into spring. I'm so excited. It's going to be 26 degrees today. I feel like the life force is returning to my body. And along with that, you think about winter. So winter is a time where we turn more inwards. We're not going out as much because the weather doesn't really allow it. It's a time where we're wearing more layers of clothing. We're maybe reading more, watching more TV. We're changing our diet. We eat more comforting, wholesome, grounding food. Maybe that more looks like you eat a lot more fat and those sort of unhealthy foods, creamy drinks, hot chocolate, all of that sort of stuff. So winter, just like a woman's period and that week of that time, really should be looked at as a time of turning inward, of not actually scheduling too much, of making sure that you're honoring that decline, that natural decline in your energy level during that time, literally your period. So what can that look like? Plan for that time, as in unplan it. Don't schedule stuff. Don't make yourself be out in the world if that's not resonating with you. And for many women, it simply won't be. So what does that mean? Don't go out for dinner. Don't overschedule and overextend your energy because your energy is going to be lower. It's in that winter phase. So that is your winter. After those sort of 7-ish days, then we move into what happens after winter, which is where we're really sitting beautifully today here in Australia, and that is in spring. So spring is actually the stage, what we call in the menstrual cycle, our follicular stage. That is when a new egg is basically getting all ready to be released. So the follicular stage coincides with the time where we want to be actually planning, sort of getting into our next activities, what we want to be achieving in the world, what we want to be doing, and start planning, researching, preparing for the execution of those activities. So you might start going out a little bit more. This is our spring. It's getting warmer. Our bodies are wanting to be out a little bit more, enjoying that lovely weather. So that's the next week. So we're up to week 2. Week 3, we're coming into our ovulation. This is summer. So summer, I don't know about 98% of everybody else, but summer is the peak. It is when the sun is shining. Our bodies enjoy that heat. They thrive on that heat. They thrive on that life force energy that we have at that summertime. We are more outgoing. We want to be out. We want to be social. It's a really busy time of year. You want to be seen. You literally want your skin to be seen. You'll be wearing less clothing. It all fits. And this coincides with our ovulation. Ovulation for women is a super, super powerful time. The egg is getting released. You are literally primed and ready to fertilize that egg and create new life. So you are ready to create something new and execute it out into the world. It's a time of collaboration, communication. Schedule these activities at that time. If you're having a catch up with your girlfriends, gosh, do it around that time. Hopefully you're all in sync with your cycle and it will be even more magical. But try and be out in the world during that time and schedule that busyness in that time where you're more likely to have that energy level of wanting to be out there in the world. Inevitably, summer can't last forever, and it shouldn't, because we would be exhausted. So following our summer, we come naturally into our autumn. This is the last week before we are actually heading back in towards our time of our period, or that winter time. So what happens in our autumn month or our autumn week in this context is that we're actually coming into our luteal phase in our period or menstrual cycle. So what that means is that the endometrium, the lining of the uterus, has actually thickened up. It's been preparing for that egg to be fertilized and implanted and new life to happen. When that doesn't actually happen, that egg doesn't get fertilized, that extra thickening of the uterus actually has to be shed, and this is what results in our period. So during that week, that luteal phase, we have to start turning inward. This is our autumn. Literally, the leaves are drying and falling from the tree. We are starting to get a little bit more emotional. We're a little bit more aggravated. Some PMS symptoms can start to come in, but they can be expressed in a healthy way if you haven't forced yourself to be out in the world. That needed to end at your summer. So this is where you're starting to turn inwards. You're spending more evenings at home, maybe starting to close off those projects, complete tasks, the things that you really executed and put out in the world. You want to start reflecting on how that went. Maybe start planning and looking at what's going to be happening for your next cycle. They're more inward activities, starting to reduce your energy output in the world to start preparing for that time where you're coming back into your winter, a time of reflection, regeneration, and re-energizing of your body, a time to turn inward and start actually building up your energy again and allowing your time for deep, deep rest. So that is a lot to get your head around. Now there's probably women watching this video going, well, that's all well and good. I'm post-menopausal. I don't have a period anymore. You are not out of the woods with this scheduling option. I want you to try and follow the moon, because the moon is lunar. The moon actually is in alignment with a woman's menstrual cycle, or probably more correctly, a woman's menstrual cycle and a woman's emotional cycle is in coherence with the moon and its cycles, its lunar energy. So what does that mean? Essentially, the new moon, I want you to think about that as your winter. So when the dark sky, there is no moon, that's what's happening on a new moon. That is your winter. That coincides with that period time. As we're building up to the full moon, that is our waxing moon. moon, the spring. So we're building energy. We're starting to cultivate and get ready to release that egg. The full moon is like your egg. It's your ovulation. So that's that summertime. Really get out there and enjoy. That's why people get a little bit crazy around the full moon as well. There's this heightened energy. It's a good thing in health. And then after that full moon, we come to our waning moon. The moon's starting to actually decline in energy, heading back towards being a new moon. That phase is your autumn phase. So probably not what you're expecting to start thinking about with your schedule, but give it a go, ladies. What this can mean is that you actually should have a different schedule every single week. Every single week. No single day really should look much like the other. You need to move in this cyclical pattern. It's not linear. You get another chance to do it over every single month and really start tuning in with those energies, with how you are in those cycles. Keep a journal, keep a tab on what's going on for you. You'll start to really unlock this natural flow of energy and cyclical nature in your body. Once you start honoring that and accepting that, you're actually going to be able to be way more productive with your schedule and with your life, and people around you are just going to be in absolute admiration with how you're managing to do all that you do, because you're actually honoring that cycle and working with the natural flow of that energy. So I hope that's been enjoyable. I'm going to be releasing a lot more videos on this sort of stuff because it just energizes me so much. And this is really a pathway that I'm kind of moving towards, because I've really done things in a certain way, in a very linear way for a long time. I've been in that very masculine patriarchal mindset because of my career, and I'm starting to dial down a little bit now. So I hope you enjoy the future videos that are coming out. Please make sure that you subscribe. I'm generally pretty good and I get videos out every week. Sometimes there's little hiccups because I honor my cycle around that. So make sure that you subscribe, but also when you're subscribing, just tap or click on that little bell, because the bell will actually notify you in your YouTube app on your phone when I do release a video, so you can be right on top of it all and not miss a beat. Have an amazing rest of your day and hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.